this album marked 20 years of Jeremiah and myself making albums together and writing music together. Kind of inspired by, seeing bands like U2, or I would say Tom Petty always was mixing in new stuff with classics that like I grew up listening to, and then he was so excited to play his new stuff. Bruce Springsteen's always does this. Neil Young. I think these are bands that I don't know if they do it on purpose, but there's this refusal to just only look back. I think the dream was just to not have to work like a restaurant job and play music. That was the start of the dream. And then when we got off the plane in Mumbai and we like started driving, I've never been more shocked, like culturally, because I thought we were going to get in accidents the whole time. I saw like a camel under an overpass, and I've always loved Indian food. When wherever I am, it's usually like a really good option. And so going to the source, I'm really curious I want to try it, this region. I want to understand the differences a little more than I know right now.
Wesley, such an honor, such a privilege to talk to you. I'm going to start with Automatic, the album. It feels quieter, it feels more reflective. What phase of life does this album come from?
It definitely comes a lot from having a couple kids. And anytime you see kids growing older, there was like, you start to realize you're also growing older. And up until that point, it never clicked, honestly. Like I still feel like I'm 20 and I'm 43. So there's a strange element to that. And then also this album marked 20 years of Jeremiah and myself making albums together and writing music together. So I think there was like this natural moment of just thinking about some things, like how have they changed over time? How do I feel about this? That those 20 years brings you to, along with like seeing your kids every day seem to get bigger.
The tour is named after the album. How does the Automatic material change the flow of your live set, or does it not? Is that an independent thing?
I think we were inspired over like each album cycle we've done, record cycle. When we tour it, we like to name it after that, and we like to play, if not the whole record, nearly the whole record live, and then mix in other records or the material from all the records in between all that. And I think kind of inspired by seeing bands like U2, or I would say Tom Petty always was mixing in new stuff with classics that like I grew up listening to, and then he was so excited to play his new stuff. Bruce Springsteen's always does this. Neil Young. I think these are bands that I don't know if they do it on purpose, but there's this refusal to just only look back. And I think if you only look back, you start to become like a tribute band to your own band. So it's and honestly, like you'll see with any band you see playing new stuff, it's like they're most excited about it. It's like the thing that they're not so sure they can play that well yet, and you'll see them sweat a little bit and not all know all the words by heart yet. And so I think there's a part of this that's like a really human element, that it's really genuinely fun to play stuff that you don't quite have down yet.
Take us back to the very beginning, Wesley, before the success, before Ho Hey. What was the dream back then? Those early struggles, those moments of doubt.
I think the dream was just to not have to work like a restaurant job and play music. That was the start of the dream. And then beyond that, it was like, imagine if we ever played a club or a theater. It was like all of these very small increment things that in the last year in the States, we got to play. We had 9 stadium shows, which was just like one stadium show would be, wow, I can die a happy man now. Like, that's crazy. Like, I just didn't expect that. That wasn't the goal. And yet it happened. And so I don't know. Like, I feel like most of what I get satisfaction of now is just like a song idea actually working out. It's like simple stuff, because that stuff is just out of our hands.
Jeremiah is such a key part of the band's identity. I want to understand how that partnership works creatively. Is it just trust, or is it musical shorthand? I don't know.
It definitely is both trust, music shorthand. It's also just complementary passions, I guess. I was going to say skill, but it's not really. It's like most of it is just what you're obsessed with, you become better at. And I would say there's a big cinematic flavor to what we do, and that almost is all provided by Jeremiah. Like the sounds that he's getting that are on the edges of the songs. It's not like the chords themselves are one thing, but just the vibe around that. He's providing a lot of that. And I'm really passionate about like vocals and lyrics, and especially lyrics and storytelling. And I think he could spend days on like the sound of a piano or drums or something like that. So we're kind of like in a beautiful way staying out of each other's way, but coming together. It's way more powerful together than the two things separated. You know, they like exponentially grow. Um, and so over time, there's just less and less that needs to be said other than, hey, man, can you try this out? And the other thing that I think is great is both of us, I think, are always willing to try the other person's ideas out with full faith. Like, hey, I'm not questioning this. Let's try it. It's a very like open-hearted kind of approach instead of may my idea win, it's like may the best idea win. And I think that's how we've kept it going for 20 years in like a strong way.
That's wonderful. You mentioned the word cinematic, and that segues beautifully into our next question. Cleopatra really introduced cinematic storytelling. Did you realize then that albums could feel like films? I mean, people would listen to these songs and get into visual thinking, and your writing is character based, obviously, but the fact that albums could feel like films.
Yeah, honestly, at that point in my life, I said music videos are dead, and I just lost a lot of faith in some of that. And then for some reason, we just tried those things. And the music video director, one of our friends, Isaac Ravi Shankara, I was teasing him. He like went to Harvard and he's now he directs like music videos. I'm like, your parents must hate this fact, but he really did a good job of like weaving in the stories that we talked about and helping put a tapestry together visually. And after that, it was like, wow, I think it enriched the experience for everyone. Um, I remember seeing like I think it might have been after that, but Florence and the Machine did a beautiful series. Obviously, Beyonce did Lemonade. That was unbelievable. So I think now there's like a cool renewed interest in music videos, but they had gotten so like it was just a silly commercial for a band. It wasn't really like telling anything interesting. That I'm glad it's like returned into this like art form that you can take a song and show the listener, hey, this is what I was like imagining. What are you imagining? And it becomes a lot like deeper of a experience for some people, which is great.
Your live gigs are famous for everyone switching instruments, Wesley. So, what does that add musically? What does that add emotionally? And how has it helped your audience connection?
I think A is just luck of the draw that we met a lot of very talented, multi instrumentalists over the years, and it's fun to showcase how people can move around from station to station and not miss a beat. Um, I've always really enjoyed shows where you don't have to stare at the same thing at the same angle the whole time. Like, imagine just making an audience member turn their head just once in the show. It'll change the whole complexion of it. So the more we can do that, I think the more you can like, keep it all going. Keep that. It's almost like you're trying to bring it all to a boil. And so it's a way we try to do our show in a way to keep the audience like on their toes, engaged in what instead of the bass player's on the bass the whole time. It's like, well, sometimes he's doing this, sometimes he's doing that. That for me, it's an exciting show, and they're good. They're not like it's not like they're terrible on this and good on that. So credit to them.
All right, you're bringing the Automatic World Tour to Gurugram in the north of India in 2026. What excites you about playing India, Wesley? Is it, I don't know, cultural curiosity? Is it, hey, this is a new audience? Talk to me about that.
I think it's. I mean, we played in Pune the 2 years ago, maybe 3 years
Mm.
ago, and when we got off the plane in Mumbai and we like started driving, I've never been more shocked like culturally. because I thought we were gonna get in accidents the whole time. I saw like a camel under an overpass. Some of the food we got to try, it was like it reminded me of the first time I went to Japan, where I was like, everything is so different. Um, and the people were so there's like a lot of warmth. I don't know. There's a lot of like smiling, and it's just like a we got to do some sightseeing and everything, but I think I'm intrigued and want to go back and see more because it's a vast place. You know, there's from what I understand, there's just so much to see. We saw like a sliver for 3 days, so for a lot of reasons that's just like it feels like you're alive when you know you think you've seen a lot and then you go somewhere and you don't know anything about the place and you're just like what is this. So and I've always loved Indian food. When I you know wherever I am, it's usually like a really good option, and so going to the source, I'm really curious of the I want to try it this region. I want to understand the differences a little more than I know right now.
That's lovely. You've shared stages and friendships with two of my favorite acts, Mumford and Sons, the band, Brandy Carlisle, the artist. I'd love for you to talk about them a little bit and how important is community in this career, Wesley. I mean, yeah, some people say it helps them stay grounded. Some people say they learn from peers. What is it with you as far as these collabs and friendships are concerned, Mumford and Sons, Brandy?
Yeah, I think Mumford and Sons, in a lot of ways, like broke down a lot of doors for a whole lot of the rest of us in terms of bringing its style of music to the mainstream that it wasn't ready for quite yet, and then they just kind of introduced it. I remember watching the Grammys, and they came out. It was like the Avett Brothers, Mumford and Sons, and Bob Dylan all came out, and it was like a new chapter. It was like, whoa, what's happening here? Marcus in particular is like one of the most generous people as far as championing other bands and just there's a generosity in him I think that comes out. And then with Brandy, um, one of the it's like in sports there's like freak athletes, and in music there's like that's the version of that would be like the way they can sing. And I think she has such a just a powerhouse of a singer, and has been at it under a lot of adversity for a long time, and I think finally gotten her flowers in a lot of ways. And I really love that version of a story. Is like someone who fought so long and then finally hears applause at the end of their while they're still alive. You know, some people would just go to the grave and feel underappreciated, and I hope she realizes that. I know I've got to believe she does. But we opened for her back in 2011 or 12, and yeah, so both those bands are creating community around like people like Joni Mitchell or something, and honoring Joni Mitchell's music. Um,
Wow.
so they're a lot. I think they just do a lot to foster community, and you'll see them. They'll always bring other bands on stage with them at the end of a night, and I think that's also a really beautiful thing to do that has inspired us and other bands to do that as well.
You played many cities on this tour already, Wesley. Talk to me about, I don't know, a moment, a fabulous city, a fabulous gig on the Automatic World Tour.
Yeah, I would say we got to play Soldier Field in Chicago. It's like the football stadium, but the night before we got to go watch Oasis play the same place. So it was like this wild thing where we're watching one of our favorite bands of all time play this venue that we know the next night we're going to be playing. And then after that, I think it was System of a Down. It was like it was the craziest run of bands, and to just see them and enjoy that, but also be sort of like, whoa, this is a really big place. I don't know, man. I probably shouldn't have seen this before we played it. Um, Luckily, it all went well, but I would say that's a really fond memory for me of like, it's a really iconic stadium if you like football. And in America, it's just like everyone knows Soldier Field, and then Oasis. And then, so it was just a really beautiful few days.
My last question is for fans coming to their first Lumineers show who didn't see you in Pune, what should they expect emotionally?
I think we try to connect emotionally, um, by trying to tap into some vulnerability and real emotion while we're up there. And I think there's a lot of raw emotion, just like, especially when you're in a new place, like for us, like that, I would call it an exotic place, a place that we're not like, I know how everything works here. And I know, so I think you get the best out of a band when something like that, those circumstances are like that, and feeling very lucky to be somewhere. Um, and then also, I think there's like, we've been playing so many shows as a band. I think we're more and more like locked in with one another. Jared and I have played 1,000 shows to get over 1,000, and I don't know how many the rest, but they're getting close. So it's like that much, that many times together. I think it's almost like we can connect with each other, which then allows us to connect with the audience and sort of take off the armor, and then the audience comes with you on that. So I think that, to me, those are the best shows, is when you see, sometimes it's someone shouting along, sometimes it's someone crying. It's all just that raw emotion is really like the biggest compliment to the music.
Amazing. Wesley, really appreciate your time. Can't wait
Yeah,
to see the Lumineers and you live in concert in Gurugram in India. Thank you very much.
we
Cheers.
we can't wait. We'll see you there. Cheers.
One world, your station.